Another week, another fabulous episode of WandaVision. And the cat's out of the bag, or should I say, the bunny's out of the cage. No, Senor Scratchy. I have some theories about him. But yes, WandaVision isn't as zany a show as some have been theorizing. In fact, a whole new industry has popped up over the last few weeks. Fake WandaVision spoilers, or misleading theories. Theories just for the sake of having theories. I mean, that thing that went around about the last 3 episodes being an hour long, crediting Kevin Feige. Agatha, did you tweet that out originally? I mean, I was nervous it was getting so out of control. But, you know, as your guide, I take that very seriously. And I knew that my info was legit and that my theories were grounded in what the actual evidence. So I held my ground, and pretty much everything I've told you, from theories to spoilers, has been correct or is becoming correct. So thank you for your trust. Whew! And I'm glad I didn't let you down. And thank you for watching this with me every week, both at these breakdowns and live. You make getting up at 2 a.m. an absolute delight. The show does too, but it's much more of a party with all of you. We have a great time. Now we have 2 episodes to go. I know. And I predict that that next week, that will be the flashback episode where we learn Agatha's origin story. I think she's going to start monologuing. And then how Wanda got Vision's body from S.W.O.R.D. and how all of this actually got started. Then we'll have our big finale, which will feature the big battle that I told you I heard about from my sources, with Wanda and Agatha going against each other. And that's going to be amazing. Now, 7 episodes in, we're only at about 3.5 hours of storytelling. And Marvel said this was a 6-hour story. So that means that the final 2 episodes should be about an hour and a half each, or we'll get like a movie for the finale, which I wouldn't complain about. That could be really interesting. That would be a great idea. That would make all the they cram a lot into a half hour, to be fair. Also, are we done with the sitcoms? We've gone through the sitcom posters, and I think we've seen all the sitcom footage that we've seen from all the trailers. I think we're probably done. Today, so what did we go out on? We went out on kind of Modern Family. They kind of skimped on the Modern Family stuff, but what they did do was quite good. And then also we got maybe The Office, as in talking to camera, but not really. I mean, the opening credits were an homage to Happy Endings, a show I've never watched or even heard of, but one of you caught it during the watch along. I'm not quite sure why they used that show. It was never particularly successful. I checked. I thought maybe Jack Schaefer, who's the showrunner on this show, might have gotten her start there. She never worked on it, so I don't know why. I think it was on ABC. But I don't think anybody, some of you, one of you caught it, but I think most people have not watched Happy Endings. Maybe they used that because the title would be ironic, because ain't nobody getting a happy ending here. It's gonna be great. The episode, again, did seem short. This was my worst reaction to the Please Stand By coming up. I was so upset because it was an amazing ending. I think and I'm the one who killed Sparky is one of the best end lines ever for an episode. It was just so great. And Kathryn Hahn, I'm very happy for her. Like, Evan Peters fell down a little bit, but Kathryn Hahn came up really big. I'm very excited for her. We got a good look at what she actually looks like at Agatha Harkness, her costume. Oh, we're going to have such a good time going over this. We saw her powers in use a little bit. It's going to be great. I can't wait. But that was very frustrating when it ended. And there were some letdowns, some particularly big fan theories bit the dust. No Reed Richards. I told you that I heard that he would kind of most likely show up on Disney Plus first, but I think this is too soon. I don't think they'd even greenlit or chose a director for the Fantastic Four movie when they were filming this or writing it originally to cast Reed. My suspicion is he'll show up in maybe Secret Invasion, that upcoming series, because he was a big part of the comic book event. So that would I think there's a lot of shows where he could show up coming up, quite frankly. And also no multiverse X-Men. It looks like, that's not going to work out. Although how they justify Agatha making whoever this is, we'll talk about that in a moment, look like the Fox version of Quicksilver will be interesting. That's going to be interesting. But there was a reference to the multiverse, a very clever one, in fact, with the commercial, which we will also discuss as we go through the episode. I just want to talk about some of these important things up first. But we did have some amazing reveals during this episode. So it kind of balanced out the letdowns and the reveals. But come on, Monica had an amazing origin sequence. Oh, wow, it's so cinematic. I can't wait to break that down. And then we also, of course, learn that Agnes is indeed Agatha Harkness from the comics, even down to the purple coloring from her clothes to her magic. And the hexagons are hers too, by the way. I didn't catch that until I rewatched it to do my notes for this. So hexagons are for Agnes. That's incredible. She's behind all of this, and Evan Peters is either working with her or for her. She doesn't seem to be working for him. So I wonder how people will react to that. The final should be quite the show. We've got red, pink, and blue light. Oh boy, right? Everyone's eyes glows. Everybody's eyes glows. So I think Ralph is the rabbit. That's my guess. I think Agatha turned her husband into a rabbit. You know, he could be her familiar. He could be her husband / familiar. And I think Evan Peters, as some of you have also guessed, is Agatha Harkness' son, Nicholas Scratch, which means that Bunny's full name is Ralph Scratch. Ralph doesn't really seem like a name from the days of Salem, so I wonder what his original name was. Also, is Evan Peters also Nightmare? Is Nicholas Scratch Nightmare? Nightmare and, Agatha Harkness working together? I hope so, because otherwise that seems like a waste of Evan Peters, right? If he's just a henchman, we'll see. It would be a huge misdirect. I think some X-Men fans would be quite angry, but I'm actually relieved because I want, as I tweeted the other day, I want fresh X-Men. All right, so let's break this down. We have so much to go over. It was such an incredible, incredible episode. And now, speaking of Modern Family, I did like this intro because I thought that juxtaposing like the Modern Family type music over this horrific scene of these people screaming and running for their lives with her testimonial, I thought was really, really a funny thing to do. I thought that worked great. And by the way, I have to say that Elizabeth Olsen is an incredible actress, that she's able to like channel all of these sitcoms just so well and make it seem like she actually is an actress in those type of shows. I mean, I think she might get a nomination. I think this is turning into quite the comic book show, and we know how Hollywood has an axe to grind with how that's kind of like, speaking of rewriting things, the comic book genre seems to be rewriting Hollywood, and they're not happy about it. So I think that hurts them get recognition. But her performance is so incredible. I think she might get nominated, to be honest with you. I think there's a very strong chance. So we see the intro that was the clip that they aired the other day on Good Morning America. I don't know why they aired a clip for, to promote the show. I wouldn't think it needs to be promoted. So I do wonder what its viewership is like and why Disney felt they needed to do that. My favorite thing is when she pulls back the covers, it's of course revealed she still has her costume on from Halloween. But Michael Strahan was the one who introduced that clip. And when it came out, he didn't introduce it, but when it came out, he was the anchor, and he was like, oh, someone had a crazy night, and he clearly had never watched the show. I can't believe that no producer on Good Morning America set up the clip for him so that he could have some meaningful commentary on it. I'm like, what kind of synergy is this? Also, I want to point out that pillow doesn't match the rest of the sheets. The comforter and that other pillow are a set, but that pillow is not. So is the house already glitching, as we'll see in a moment? Because that's why the boys ran up. They ran up to say that their games were glitching. And I love this Uno thing. I gotta say, this show has a lot of VFX shots, and they paid for them with product placement. There's a ton of product placement, and every time you see product placement, I'll point some of them out to you because they were particularly obvious this episode. I guess because we've caught up to modern times so they can have modern products. But they really made a lot of money off this episode with product placement. So I thought it was clever that their games were changing to different types of games. And I thought that Wanda was not the best of parents. She is crazy. But, when her son said, my head hurts, she was like, oh, go play. And I'm like, his head hurts. That's like never a good sign. It's obviously his psychic powers, which is not something that she has. Although some of you have pointed out that Billy has sometimes had that in the comics. I didn't recall that. I haven't read all of his stories, though, to be fair. But that would make him even more powerful, potentially, than Wanda. And that's very important later on in this episode, that he can hear people's thoughts. A lot of Jean Grey action over here. She had her chance. Darn it. So it's, oh well. All right, so here we have the milk changing, and I like that it's Westview brand. But look, Maxwell House, Florida's Natural. Oh, the money, ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching. So we have a cute little sequence here, and I want to also give a shout out to the set designers who have done an incredible job, particularly the whole show, but this episode is really, really good. But that looks just like the Modern Family kitchen. So I thought that was really great. I loved that. So she's pouring this milk, and I thought it was interesting. The milk keeps changing to different time periods. It even goes black and white, which I thought was fun. But I think some other important things that are shown here is the missing children thing on the back of the milk carton, which of course is traditional with milk cartons. At least class. I don't know if they still do that because I don't know how many people still get milk in cartons. But missing children have been a big theme, wanting children, missing children. And Agatha is a witch, and witches have complicated relationships with children. So I wonder if that's a factor there. Maybe Agatha didn't want them around until Vision brought it up, and she was like, I better bring them back. So I'd be interested to see if we find out about that. I do think there's a weird missed opportunity with this serial, but on the back of it, there is a maze with a circus theme, so I wonder if that is a little bit like, Vision maybe trying to get to them or something. I think in the middle, I'm not quite sure what it says. I'm not sure if it says goal, but I thought those were some cute nods. And then we have that opening credits, and I thought it was interesting that it was mostly just Wanda, not WandaVision. And, they had Vision coming at the very end, but I think Wanda feels very much alone during most of this episode. She even says, if your father doesn't want to be here, what can I do about it? And I felt bad for her when she said that. I'm not sure why 10 has a heart around it. Maybe this is when the episode was originally supposed to air, if they had met its original start time, but the pandemic threw it off. But this is very cute. And then Vision comes in finally. And then I like that it says created by Wanda Maximoff. But we now know that's a lie. Or at least she was, I guess it's created by Wanda Maximoff, but produced by Agatha Harkness. They should have let the credits keep going. So Hayward's taken a bit of a back seat this episode, but you'll remember my theory from last week, which is now confirmed with this episode, that we have a science villain and a magic villain for our science hero and magic hero. And I like the way one of you phrased it after I put that forward last week in the comments. One of you said, I love that. That means that Wanda and Vision are a marriage of magic and science. And I thought that was a really nice way to put it. So we get a really good look at the hexagon, which has gotten quite large, very big. And they're like, we launched today. So I guess next week we'll see what Hayward's going to do to try and get his property back. He's like, didn't you see the sticker that says property of sword? That's mine. But Vision can't leave, so I'll be curious to see what happens as a result. And then we go back, and they don't seem to care that much about Darcy. Thank goodness that Monica and Jimmy do. So we go back in there, and I love that Vision wakes up, and he sees the strong man, who is the guy who first signed Darcy in when she first arrived at the camp. So I thought that was great. And she got to punch him in the face, too, because they have a little bit of a history. So Darcy is here, and she's an escape artist. So that makes me wonder if she'll be able to help figure out how to get out of this, maybe. Or maybe that's just what they came up with. But it's clever because, of course, when we last saw Darcy, she was handcuffed to a van, and now she's chained to a car. So I thought that was cute. And that's the sweater from the poster. But it's not a sweater. It's a carnival costume. So I know some of you will be disappointed that they didn't do her character from the sitcom that she actually starred in. But again, it seems that WandaVision is not quite that cuckoo. That's just Wanda. So speaking of Wanda, and Vision remembers Darcy from when he was trying to break through. That Vision always working. Even when he was falling apart, he was looking around because she was trying to help him. So he knows she's a friend. So we go back to Wanda's home, Vision and Wanda's home, and you can see that the twins are a little nervous about their mother. And I like this shot of the weather. It's always perfect. It never gets lower than the 40s. It's great. I love that. It's so nice. And they're like, what's going on, and what about Uncle P? And I love that both Vision and Wanda acknowledge that they know that is not actually Pietro. So that's great. I'm glad that's settled because that was a big point of contention amongst many of us. Some of you were very insistent, but as I told you, he's not, and it's confirmed. And then, so I like that she's not hiding her magic, and she continues not to hide it because she opens the door for Agnes to come in. And Agnes comes in, and I thought it was interesting that she didn't have her brooch on. That was crazy to me. I noticed it immediately, but she does put it back on at the end of the episode. But she's wearing an interesting outfit. This is all purple, and that's not only similar to her magic color. I guess it's not pink, it's purple, you could say, or pinkish purple. But that's also the colors of Agatha Harkness in the comic book, the original character. And she's even wearing this sweater later on when they show some of the stuff that's going on. I guess that's from the same time period, so her outfits match the time period she's in. But purple is, I think, a strong choice for her. So what does she want? She wants the twins. Now, I'm not sure if, I think she's been trying to get Wanda to have children. She doesn't like other children, but there's something special about these kids. Remember, I told you in the comics, they are made up of the souls of Mephisto, shards of his soul. So they've been called Demon Spawn last week by Evan Peters, who we now know is in the know. So there's a lot going on. Maybe Evan Peters is maybe he's not even a real entity. Maybe now that I think about it, he's just something that, Agatha created that can walk around. It's sentient. Boy, people are going to be upset if that's the case. Woo! Good luck, WandaVision. So she does say she wants to watch the children. I have to assume that she does want them for other nefarious reasons. Besides, if I think just getting a little nervous that they were catching on to her later on in the episode. So I'm curious to see next week about what the plan is. She says, I don't bite. And then she says, I did bite a child once, which plays into my theory that Agatha doesn't like children, as most witches do not. And some of them eat children, as you know. So I wonder if that's a little play on that as well. So Wanda's having her day off. She's getting to relax, but everything around her starts to glitch. And she changes it back. She tries to change it back, but she feels like she's losing control in every sense of the word. So I think that's very well done. And they keep going with the testimonials during this. But there's an important moment that's coming up. But first, we have our mystery reveal. Who are Monica and Jimmy going to meet? But first, before they get there, he checks his email. I'm glad he checked his email. And he got the emails from Darcy. And we find out about cataract, which some of you had a good point. I missed this, that cataract is a play on vision, right? So that's his plan to try and bring Vision back online. I don't know how Hayward felt he would be able to control Vision, but he clearly wants some stuff, to utilize that. Some of you felt that would lead maybe to Sentinels, but we're clearly far away from the X-Men at this point. So maybe at some point, maybe this is laying the groundwork for it. I mean, some of the references on this show go so far back in the MCU, you never know at this point. So you could be laying the groundwork for the Sentinels. I think that's a good, I don't know how, I guess I'm saying I don't know how long it's going to take for that to play out, but I think that's a good theory. So I was so excited. I was like, who are they going to be meeting? I can't wait. And then as soon as they turned the corner and we saw who they were meeting, my heart sank because I was hoping I would see the PIM van, the PIM mobile, but we didn't. It was a military group, so I knew right away that it probably wasn't going to be anything exciting. And then this poor actress is, she didn't do anything wrong. She's just happy to be on this show, but she's unfortunately the face of a huge disappointment and that she is a no-name, unimportant character. But she brought something important, and this is this truck, which does look a little bit like it's based off of PIM technology, right? So, but Monica apparently designed this, and it's like an armed space rover, which is funny. Some of you made a Space Force joke, which I thought was pretty good. So I also think that the production designer did a great job here, because I always check all the words on everything to see if I'm missing anything. And I thought it was funny they even put no step on the front of this thing. They're like, don't climb on this. I was like, that's so funny. All right, so we go back into the hex, and I like this very CGI shot of the carnival. That was a big operation that Sword set up out there. And then, Darcy thinks that Vision is hitting on her because he said we had a connection, but he brings her out. He brings her out of the hex. And I like that she said, I secretly wanted to guest star on this show, but it was not fun. So she starts to fill him in. And he's like, can you help me out here? And he's like, I got an email from you. I intercepted one of your emails. So they decide to make a run for it in this funnel cake truck, which I wonder if it's operational. Can we take a funnel cake break? So they drive off, and there weren't any clues here. There wasn't anything on the side of that van, but it was a fun sequence. They did a nice job. Then we go back to Wanda, and I loved this. So the whole house is glitching, but the wallpaper, instead of glitching, rolling up, I thought was really creepy. That was a great choice. I loved that. And then she's in her testimonial, and the person behind the camera, the producer, says, do you think maybe this is what you deserve? Oh, that was great. I loved it. Now, of course, it was a male voice, but it was revealed to be Agatha. Oh, wow. Agatha is quite powerful, which is exciting. So we then get our commercial, and it's a commercial for depression, which of course has been happening to Wanda, and that's one of the things that started all this. But it's for something called Nexus, and I wasn't sure what Nexus was, but I did some quick research, and it's a brilliant choice. Now, Nexus actually has two meanings in the MCU, both science and magic, like Wanda and Vision. Oh! So on the one hand, it's the nexus of all realities, a cross-dimensional gateway that allows access to all of the realities. The multiverse! And this was referenced in Thor: The Dark World by Stellan Skarsgård's character. And of course, Darcy comes from that universe. So that makes sense that, that just ties that in beautifully. And then also, Nexus was mentioned in Age of Ultron. It was the Nexus Internet Hub, and Tony Stark had to break into their headquarters. Who remembers Age of Ultron, right? That's why that comes up for you to watch after WandaVision, because it's important. And they're saying that the reason that Tony went to look at Nexus is he wanted to find out who was helping them to fight Ultron from getting the nuclear codes. Remember, Ultron was stopped before he could do that. And Tony Stark finds out that it's Jarvis who erased his memory and scattered himself across the internet to block Ultron from doing these things. And so Vision also has lost his memory here. So I think that's interesting. Poor Vision. So much self-sacrifice. And then the commercial continues, and it has great stuff. It's like, it says, it'll bring you back to reality, or the reality of your choice, because the world doesn't revolve around you, or does it? Oh, I think it's fantastic. I wonder if this is how Wanda beats or escapes from Agatha, that she rips open the multiverse. How is she even going to get that idea? There's a lot still to do. So then we see the outside of Agatha's house, which I think they should have worked harder to establish, because it's such a quick shot, and there's an end credit scene finally this week. One of you caught it. I almost missed it. I bet a lot of people maybe missed it. But I'm sure they'll quickly double back once they get on social media, because I didn't know where Monica was at first. So that's Agatha Harkness's house. And I love the set design, speaking of set design, of how it looks inside. It looks very much like someone who comes from Salem, right? It's got all that dark wood. It's like a witch's house. In the basement is to die for. Oh, we're getting ahead of ourselves. So he's playing with Senior Scratchy, and Billy says he likes it here because it's quiet. And he says, "You're quiet inside, Agnes." And I love the look on her face. And at first I thought she was surprised, like she felt bad. She was like, "What are you saying about me?" But that's because Agatha is a fantastic actress, it's apparently, as is revealed at the end of this episode. But I think maybe she feels that he's catching on to her, that he's going to figure out what's going on in her mind. And maybe that's one of the reasons that Agatha has to step up her plan. And because, Tommy's also like, "Oh, what's wrong with Mom?" And she's like, "Oh, everything's fine." And then she has this little testimonial where she says, "Ralph says I sugarcoat things. Look at the choice of color on the flower, by the way, matches her powers." But she says, "How do I tell these children that their mother's in Cocoa Puffs or whatever?" So I think that's obviously her just covering. So then we have Monica's origin sequence, which is, at first I thought was rushed, but turns out to be just absolutely fantastic. And kudos to Jimmy Woo, because Randall Park did a great job with his part of this as well. I've been a little tough on his acting. It hasn't quite fit to me with the rest of the cast, but he really did a phenomenal job here. Now, also, this sequence, as some of you pointed out during the watch along, is very Fantastic Four. The radiation, DNA being rewritten, the spacesuits, and then even down to the costume, which also mirrors the costumes that the Fantastic Four had for a while when they ran the Future Foundation. So I think that's quite an interesting choice. So anyway, she's like, "Oh, this is going to go great." She puts the pedal to the metal, but she can't get through, right? And it starts to change and rewrite the truck. And so I love the way the thing came through the floor, like water almost, and she had to escape, and she just made it. She really fell out of there. Kudos to that stunt person. And then the truck got pulled up over in the force field, and then I love that it got thrown out, half changed, right over Monica's head. And this was a great shot too. These are some great shots. Very good cinematography here too. And landed right between them. And good job, VFX team, because that looks fantastic. It's been changed halfway. And then Monica gets the idea that she's still going to make a run for it with no protection. And I feel at this, especially because of what she says later on in this episode, when I rewatch this the second time, I really feel that Monica has a bit of a death wish. Or not a death wish, but she doesn't care anymore. And that's so sad. But it's really powerful from a character development perspective. It's going to make her an interesting hero, because she has no regard for her safety. And look at that look on Randall Park's face. That was all of us. I mean, I was half worried for her, but half like, let's do this. I want some stuff to happen already. And I love this shot of her trying to push through the force field. And then she breaks through, and look at that. I mean, this is an amazing sequence. These shots are going to live on forever. So she's being fragmented to all the different time periods, and she's being ripped apart, literally ripped apart. But while this is happening, we hear voiceover from the Captain Marvel movie from when she was a child. And she's saying she wants to go to space and to help out. And Nick Fury says, "Only if you learn to glow." Oh, we knew that line was important when we first heard it. And she's remembering her mother. And then just at a crucial moment, we hear Carol Danvers say, "Your mom really lucked out when they were handing out kids because she got the toughest one." Oh, it's so beautiful. And that's when Monica pulls it together, literally, and gets her powers. So her powers are not even really an accident. Monica willed it to be by, overcoming this. And it's just an incredible shot. And I love how her eyes glow blue. She looks, Teyonah Parris looks so great. So many shots in this episode in particular. She's really rocking her new superhero look. And I think when her eyes turn blue, she's not only using her powers, but she can see in like a radio wave vision. Her mother's call sign was Photon. That was also one of the names for Monica Rambeau in the comics. She's had a number of names over the years: Spectrum, Captain Marvel. But Photon is one of them, and she can see and control, and in some cases even turn into different wavelengths, including light. She's a very cool character. This is going to be great. I can't wait for Monica to get the hang of this. And she's the toughest kid, as Carol Danvers said. This is going to be great. I wonder how Carol's going to feel when she finds out about this. So Monica comes out, and she's not changed. She can control stuff. She's not changed by the force field because she pulled herself together, and she looks around, and she can see all these wavelengths. Isn't that cool? She looks great. So then her eyes aren't permanently blue, which I think is interesting. I think that would have made her a little bit too much like Storm, maybe. Come on, Storm, come into the MCU. And then she takes off her outer suit. She doesn't change her clothes. I was wondering if she could alter her own clothing, but she can't. She takes off the outer layer of her spacesuit. And she's wearing a sword uniform that also has the color scheme of her uniform from the comic. So this is very well done. So then we go back to Vision and Darcy, and Darcy's catching Vision up to like what he does. She's filling in the blanks, literally, for him. So she's telling him about Jarvis and Ultron, and he's putting everything together, but it seems very distant to him. But he's realizing the trauma, finally, that Wanda has gone through. That Darcy explains, she saw him die twice in front of her, and one of the times it was by her hand. I like that she was like, did it work? And it was like, not really. So, and also he's giving a testimonial now to camera. And then he thinks Wanda is stopping them, but it's actually Agatha. So, although this seems like, I don't know why they let this stop them. I mean, it's pretty important. I would just drive around. And I'd at least try to drive around and see what happens. I'd push back a little bit more. And he eventually does, but first they let this stop them. He looks so sad because they continue to talk, and he realizes because she says, "Well, I don't understand." Because Darcy says, "I don't understand why you can't leave the hexagon," and I think Vision knows why. It's because he's not alive in the outside world, so he knows what's probably going to happen. Although I thought Darcy's line back to him that she says, "I've been watching WandaVision for the past week, and I can tell you that the love between you and Wanda is real." And I thought that was really nice. He's like, I guess we can write that on my tombstone. All right, so Monica finds Wanda's home, and she bursts in, and I love that Wanda lost her temper, because she's like, I like Wanda being in the gray zone between hero and villain, and Wanda even knows that at this point. Look at that acting. That's so great. She's like, get out, and she really, again, throws Monica out of her house. I wonder why she doesn't throw her all the way. And there's Dottie, by the way. Where have you been, Dottie? What the heck? I have a theory about Dottie that, I don't want to give it away because it's a spoiler. It's based on the comic. But I don't know. We're getting to the end game here. I don't know if we're going to have time for her to turn into that. I like this shot of Wanda holding Monica up in the air. That's really cool. And then she forcefully brings Monica down. I don't know if she was intending to hurt her, but Monica uses her powers and protects herself. And as some of you pointed out, superhero landing, second time this episode, in fact, which is very cute. And I love the way she looks up. She looks so cool there. That's a great shot. She looks so heroic, and her eyes are glowing, and she looks just so good. And even Wanda's a little like, what? I didn't do that. And so this is where Monica confronts her, and she's like, go ahead, get rid of me, hurt me. And she sees that while Wanda really wants her to leave, Wanda doesn't do it. And she's like, see, you're not like Hayward. You're not the villain. And, Wanda's like, maybe I am. I love it. But, they're causing a scene. And Agatha, or still at this point, still Agnes, is like, all right, looks like the jig is up. So she comes out, and she says, you need to leave to Monica, and she takes Wanda with her. And Wanda goes because she thinks this is her friend. Although she stops and points back, which looks like that meme, by the way. And she says, don't make me hurt you. And I thought that was great. I thought that was really good. So again, now they have another thing that's blocking them. Now it's a school crossing. And Vision just can't take this anymore. He's like, why am I doing a testimonial? Why am I waiting here? So he flies off and leaves poor Darcy behind. But I guess for the next episode, they're both going to show up at Agatha's house. And we've seen Wanda wearing the outfit that she currently has on in future things when she says we need to fight for our home. And she flies, so we know that some cool stuff is coming. So, and also that she's going to get out of Agatha's house. So speaking of Agatha's house, we get back there, and Agnes takes Wanda in. She's like, I'll get you something to drink. But while she's sitting there, this was so wonderfully creepy, so well done. Wanda sees, oh, look, a snack for her children, and those are hexes on the glasses. And she sees the glass, the half-eaten meal. And then she sees the cartoon that's playing. So someone should be sitting there eating that food. And I like, again, the production design here, like a timeless old world feel to this house. I think it's really cool. And she looks around, and on one side, there's poor Senior Scratchy. I think we're going to learn what his story is next week. And then on the other side of the wall, she sees this bug. Now, this close-up of this bug is interesting. It's gross, but the reason I included it is that this looks like the color scheme of Agatha Harkness's actual costume. So keep that in mind. So I think that's pretty interesting. Our bug's going to be one of her things, too. Or like a bee, maybe, because, hexagons are also like a bee kind of insect thing as well. Ooh, interesting. All right, so she's like, this is bad. She's like, where are the twins? And Agatha, this is important, says, oh, I think they're playing down in the basement, which means she wants Wanda to go down there. And Wanda has no choice because it's her children. And I loved, it's very Stranger Things, that they revealed this hallway underneath the house that seems to go away from the house. And I was so afraid that they were going to stop here or that Wanda for some reason would decide not to go in. And I'm like, you need to go in because we need some stuff to happen already. And she does. And so it reveals this incredible room, which maybe the room itself is also shaped like a hexagon. I bet it is. And you see these hexagons on the walls with some kind of like demonic symbols inside them. Oh, things are starting to pick up. Things do move fast in the suburbs. Did she say fast or slow? But anyway, so here we see this like curio cabinet of maybe some of Agatha's things over the years as a witch. And then we see this book. So important. This has like a demonic energy coming off of it. And also there's a very important book that factored into, a demonic book, in fact, into the original Vision and Scarlet Witch comic. So this plays off of that as well. Agatha Harkness didn't show up in that original comic, though. She showed up later on. So that's interesting to me. But I wonder, this is like, it's obviously like Agatha's spell book, but is it an entry to Mephisto or something? Is it also a portal? Is that the Nexus? I'm curious indeed. Maybe she needs Wanda to help her open it. Let's see what's going on. And so Agnes comes in, and she has her, her husband / familiar. She's got the brooch back on. She's got her real hair. So I think that's interesting. And she says, allow me to introduce, she says, you didn't think you were the only witch or, witch in the neighborhood or magic gal in the neighborhood. And she says, allow me to introduce myself. I'm Agatha Harkness. And we were all like, we knew it. And then you can see her use her own powers to close a door, open a door. And she has pink. I wonder why the curio cabinet is red like Wanda instead of pink like Agatha. We'll find out. That's really cool. And then I love that her eyes glow like a purple, pinkish purple. And then it looks like she has Wanda under some kind of control. Oh, that's so cool. And this is important with the purple eyes. We'll follow back to that in a moment. But then we get the Agatha Harkness opening credits sequence, which is based off of the Munsters, which is a great choice. So she lands here, and you get a good look at what Agatha Harkness actually looks like. Not a great look, but a very good tease. So it mimics the colors of that bug. It's got lots of layers. Very different look for Marvel. Finally, I'm thrilled that this looks so different than the other Marvel costumes. I'm really, really happy about that. And you can see she has not only purple to her magic, but also black. Oh, that's going to be good. I love that. And you can see, look at the way she changes into this look. And I wonder who was living here. Is this the witness protection person? Was Wanda the witness protection person? But why wouldn't Jimmy Woo remember that? Maybe Wanda just wanted to go and live a nice life. But here, Agatha Harkness shows up, changes everything to black and white. And then they say it's the Agatha Harkness show, and I love that she's like, shh, don't say anything. I love it! Agatha all along. And this was the best theme song. It included lyrics like, it's too late to fix things. That was great. So it shows that she was doing everything. She caused all this magic throughout the show, starring Agatha Harkness. And then she was the one who was behind this Pietro reveal. And at first you think maybe Pietro was just a figment, something she'd conjured up. But he does show up in the end credit sequence, so that needs to be clarified. But I love that she's drinking a glass of wine here. She's great. Kathryn Hahn, this is just so cool for her. And then I like this thing when she's in the car practicing looking at her makeup and getting ready to act. She's a great actress, because we were all like, wait a minute. She threw us off, in the Halloween episode. And then here she is the producer off camera during this. I thought that was fantastic. And then they have this great ending, and it's a purple blanket where she says, I'm the one who killed Sparky, and I killed Sparky too. And then she does like a witch laugh. Oh, it's so great. This having her being a witch, this opens the door to the Scarlet Witch name coming up. And also, is that going to mean that like witches during the early days of Salem were like early superheroes? And that's how it was explained? What Thor said, magic is science we just don't understand yet. So I'm curious if maybe that's how they do that. That would be really cool. That would be really, really cool. And then the damn please stand by thing came up. But we got an end credit scene this week. So Monica somehow found Agatha's house. I don't know how she knows Agatha lives here. But she goes back. She can't get in the back door, but the basement door is open. But it's a trap. It's a trap, Monica. Look at that shot. Boy, Tiona Paris looks great there. So she opens it up, and then there's like purple glowy stuff going into the basement. And at first I thought this was Monica powering up with her blue eyes, but that's purple. It's close. They're all close on the color wheel. Oh, that's interesting. Purple is a mix of blue and red. Oh, I like that too. And so I think that's why you can open the door to the basement, because if you do, it'll hypnotize you. So she seems to be under control, and we get really spooked because there's Evan Peters, but we were also happy because he's not totally gone. And he says, Snooper's gonna snoop. Oh, that was great. And then, so I hope again we find out what's really going on with him, and he sticks around. And then she turns around and you see that she has the purple eyes. So she's under Agatha's control, or Agatha and Nightmare's control. I can't wait for next week. So that was a phenomenal episode. What do you think? Is there anything you're a little disappointed about? It's okay. It's a safe space. We'll help you work through it. What are you excited about? What do you think of the reveals? What do you now think is going to happen? What do you think of my new theories, how I've evolved them based on this new information? What are you hoping for the final 2 episodes? Do you want them both to be an hour and a half? Or do you want a half hour next week and then a movie on March 5th? Boy, I don't know how I'm going to break down a movie. I might have to be multi-part. All right, so anyway, share your thoughts down below. Subscribe today. And of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.